Welcome, Fedi Friends, to episode 22 of Fireside Fedi. I'm your host, Ozoned. Fireside Fedi is a show about folks within the Fediverse. If you're seeing this, you are a part of the Fediverse. With me today is Jerry. Jerry is a wonderful llama that somehow knows about information security. Oh, wait, sorry. I think Jerry is actually a real person, or he might be a llama in a person suit.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go with that one. All right. So Jerry runs Infosec.Exchange, as well as running the Defensive Security podcast, which I just found out about, and it seems really good. Talks at a good level for somewhat IT folks like myself, not into security. Jerry, the llama wearing a human suit, also administers about 1 billion platforms, I came to find out this week. It's probably faster just to say what Jerry doesn't run. So he doesn't run Twitter, as far as I know. He doesn't run Google, as far as I know. I think not Facebook, but I think that's about it. You run everything else, right?
Pretty much everything else, yep.
Okay, good. And Jerry, and this is the most important part of Jerry's contribution to the Fediverse and the internet, is he actually posts gorgeous flowers. So we're going to talk about your gorgeous flowers because I want to know where you find all these flower pictures because they're beautiful. I love that. So,
sure.
And who needs all the other stuff when you have beautiful flowers, right? But Jerry, welcome so much.
Exactly.
Thank you for being on the show. First and foremost, how would you like to be addressed?
Jerry is fine.
All
or
right.
Hey you.
Hey you, Mr. Llama. Is that okay? Well, that would give it away. We can't do that, right?
That's right.
All right. So, Jerry, we always start with the easiest question. It's very simple, in case you don't know, which is, how did you get to where you're at today?
Well, so I guess in the context of the Fediverse, you mean?
Context of the Fediverse, the context in your career, how you got up this morning, however deep or not deep you want to go, man. I love wide open questions. So
I've been in IT for 33 years, I guess. But we're working in the IT field for about 33 years. I have been a tinkerer for a very long time. I kind of fell into a security role. I was always more in a CIO career trajectory. Although I was in a security company at the time that ended up getting purchased by IBM. And suddenly I found myself being the security guy inside this giant company who had a need for security people at the time. And I won't get into why. And I ended up doing some really cool things. And this was, by the way, about the time, for those of you who are aware, there were some really big, foundational shifts in the industry. There was the Aurora attack, the APT1 report from Mandiant came out. The world was waking up to these really advanced threat actors, and right. At the same time, there wasn't a whole lot of productive discourse about what can we learn about stuff going on in the news. And that launched the Defensive Security podcast for me. At the time, I was working on both a regulatory compliance and in cyber incident response role. So I had a lot of tangible firsthand experience, and I became a very prolific tweeter. I was, and we had just an amazing community of security people on Twitter. And at some point I think it was about 2016 or 2017, I became aware of Mastodon, and I thought, well, gosh, that's pretty cool. And I like to tinker, and it was a very, very early version of it. And so I bought or rented a VPS, and I set it up, and people started coming to it, and it was it was 5 or 10 people for a long time. And then and then what has one of my another podcaster I was on a show with called it E-Day. E-Day happened when Twitter went nuclear. I
had never heard it addressed like that. But yeah, E-Day. Okay.
It was funny. I was at the beach. so I have a my COVID purchase was a beach condo. So if we were gonna like have to lock down, I
See,
wanted to do it in a
my my
nice
COVID
setting.
purchase was a baby. My
Ah, there you
wife,
go.
my wife literally had our youngest child like a week or two before the complete shutdown happened.
Oh boy.
So that was my purchase. I think yours
That
was a bit
is
easier though.
that was a heck of a way to go
Oh, it
into
was.
COVID. I can only imagine.
Yeah, it
So
was.
I was my job was I was a CISO, so it was C-level executive, not like the least important person in my group, but I was on a lot of meetings. And I remember sitting at my desk on a WebEx at the time, and my phone, because I had it was again very prolific Twitter user, and I had alerts set up because like you don't want to miss some important tweet, right? And my phone just started going bonkers, and I had no idea what was going on. And so after this meeting was over, I looked and I had like I don't know hundreds or thousands of messages, and basically the whole deal was people on Twitter were abandoning ship, and they're like, "Hey, we're all going to Jerry's Infosec.Exchange," which was, by the way, set up to handle like 50 people. And so I spent kind of the next
Oh my god.
month in like obviously I still had had a job, a pretty stressful job, by the way, which is why I have no hair. Um,
It's more streamlined. It helps us to run faster.
that's how I like to
Yeah,
think about it. Yes.
yeah,
So it also helps with that vitamin D absorption.
yeah. That's
Yes.
yes, yeah. Because I get a lot
Yeah.
of outside sun time too. I think you do as well, being an IT guy, right?
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I spent about a month or so scaling this Infosec.Exchange up, and I learned a ton. I've been in IT for a very long time,
Mm-hmm.
but like trying to do all that stuff on the cheap was challenging, and it at one point surged to about 50,000 concurrent users, which is a which is a very big challenge. Now, fortunately, Mastodon actually scales out horizontally really well, and so that was
Oh,
those were exciting times. But as that kind of started to die down, you know, there was a renewed interest in all things Fediverse, right?
mm-hmm.
Like, there's kind of a resurgence. Obviously, Mastodon is just
Mm-hmm.
one thing out there,
Right.
and it often there's frustrating limitations in it, and
Mm-hmm.
especially having come from Twitter and trying to build this community that was kind of moving over lock, stock, and barrel. I started trying to experiment with other technologies like Akoma, and it was Fire or Calkey, and then Firefish, and now it's Ice
Mm-hmm.
Shrimp, and
Yep.
PeerTube, and PixelFed, and then Matrix, because hey, none of those have end-to-end encrypted,
Yeah. Yeah.
private chat. So, and
Yeah.
like that's something that the security industry needs and wants, is the ability to to have the friendier discussions with your colleagues and other companies to share like what's going on in the business. What should I be looking for? And that's, you ask meaningful, tangible questions. So anyway, it kind of grew organically like that. Mastodon and Infosec.Exchange is still kind of the center of the world. There's about
Yes.
13,000 active, very active users on it. Down, I think we've got like total of 80,000 accounts ish, but only about 13,000 of them are active. And
Okay.
and so I've been running that server now for, we just passed 8 years. Just had
Wow.
our eighth birthday. And yeah, it's a great place. The community's awesome. It's not really about me. It's about
Right.
community. Like I'm just the person who makes sure the things is stays up and running. It's the moderators, the awesome people who are there. That's what it's about. It's really not about me.
See, wow. Okay, there's a lot to unpack there, Jerry. I mean, you have such amazing history from essentially the almost the very beginning, the early stages at least of the social of the web itself, and now
Mhm.
you've actually gotten pinned into you've been hooked into the social web well before a lot of folks, and you've seen that boost. I would not say we are at a bust. I don't think we ever will be at a bust when there's folks like yourself and myself and others that just want to do this for fun and give a place for people. Um, but I think you downplay a lot because you were able to do that, right? Like you surfed that wave, and while it was probably rocky and rough, you're still here. And after 8 years, like that's amazing. It is more than just setting up server. Like we've seen numerous times where someone sets up a server and folks go there and their values don't exactly align with others. And I think what I don't want you're downplaying Infosec.Exchange, but I've known of Infosec.Exchange. Again, one of our community members, local developer, is in the IT security field, and that was one of the big ones that he follows because there's a lot of people on there that are doing actual like Infosec work.
Mm-hmm.
You are not providing just another Twitter, right? Which is whatever. You are providing an actual security, Infosec security service. And that's massively important and that's massively rewarding, I think. So what you've set up so many different services. Do you have, and this is probably going to be like asking about your kids, do you have a favorite that you like to use or that you like to set up?
They're all quirky in their own little way.
Yes. Yes, they are.
So I've gotten to the point where I can set up a Mastodon instance in my sleep. I have
Really?
rebuilt, torn down, and whatnot. Infosec.Exchange so many times. I can actually do it live now. I mean, I've gotten
Oh,
to the
wow.
point where I can completely rebuild the infrastructure, you know, up to a point without anybody knowing, so that is okay. But then there are others like mbin, where
Yes.
and mbin started off start off life as kbin, and
K-Bin.
kbin was written by I think his name was Ernest, and no shade on that on him, but there was a time, kind of like when Twitter melted down. There was a time recently where Reddit went through kind of a similar
Mm-hmm.
sort of meltdown, and there was a big rush, and Lemmy was a big recipient of a bunch of traffic, and so I set up a Lemmy instance, of course. And people said, well, why would you do that? Because Lemmy's full of horrible people. Like this Cabin thing looks cool too. And I said, well, yeah, it does look kind of neat. Like visually, it's a much more appealing front end.
Right.
But uh, my experience has been that it was not really ready for prime time. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a personal project that got thrust into the spotlight before it was really ready.
Yes.
And so it I've had a lot of challenge with it, and if it weren't for the current mbin team, I would have given up. The current team of developers that support mbin are phenomenal human beings and have gone so far and above to help me out. I'm forever in their debt. They're the reason Fedia.io still exists. But it still is it's a challenge. Like it's the most time consuming
Yeah.
service I run. And I would
Well,
say the Acoma instance is the least time consuming. So there you
I
go.
don't even know. I don't know what a coma is. I haven't heard of that
So
one.
so if you've heard of Pleroma,
Yes.
Pleroma is, so it's a it's like Mastodon, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
Akoma is a fork of Pleroma.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So kind of like Kalki and now Ice Shrimp is a
Yeah.
fork of Miski. It's
Right. Yeah. We have a
same sort of thing.
million forks. And I mean, I like the forks. I think, I've seen this with Linux, and I mean, you've been around IT for a long time. IBM back in the early 2000s was big on pushing actually Linux. I remember the first commercial I saw about Linux, and you were there. I don't know if you were directly involved with that, but um, seeing Linux fork and so many people are like, well, why don't you just contribute to that? It's like, no, this is where we get innovation from. This is where someone comes and says, I like your stuff, but I want to do it this way. And then someone comes along and says, hey, we do like that now. Let's go that way. I think forks are a good thing. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, it's hard to keep up, right? Like you just said, 3-level, 4-level deep. But how do you feel about something like that? Do you think that takes away from a project?
It's a kind of a double-edged sword, because obviously if you had
Yeah.
everybody rowing in the same direction, you could cover more ground. You could perhaps make something that's more usable and user friendly and whatnot. But like you said, almost all of these, and actually I can't think of one that isn't. They're all passion projects. Like
Yes.
they're
Yep.
all they're all run by people who are doing it because they have the little the little worm in their brain that is that is driving them towards this creative outlet.
Yeah.
And so my observation is that the thing that drives these forks is that somebody has a different idea that might not be compatible with the vision of
Mm-hmm.
the person who is who's running the main thing, whether that's speed of release or features or appearance or what have you. There's lots of different things that drive those forks, but I think they're fine. Especially given that, like, this is people are doing this out of the goodness of their heart. Like they're doing
Yeah.
this because they want to.
Yes. And they see a need. And I think, a lot of projects on the Fediverse, probably all, at least at one point, started that way, right? And everyone wanted to give back. We want to grow this thing, which makes it challenging because, as you're saying, it costs money. So we need to find ways to handle that. But so Fedia.io, I actually just got a account literally. I think I put it in yesterday and it let me know I got it today. This is kind of, and my friends had said that it's kind of a all-in-one application for the Fediverse. You have Reddit style posts, you have microblog like Mastodon, you have, magazines. I think that's like a Pleroma thing, right? The idea of magazines or
So magazines are very akin to Lemmy communities.
oh, okay.
So it is. You can think about notwithstanding the microblogs and whatnot, you can think about Mbin as an alternative to Lemmy, and so they
Mm-hmm.
call that the Threadiverse, which is different than Threads, which
It's
we don't have to talk about. So it's really intended to be something very akin to Reddit, right? And both Lemmy and Ben are intended to play in that space. Now, unlike Lemmy, Mbin does a lot more interoperation or interoperability with kind of the broader Fediverse. Lemmy does it just to an extent, but it is much more tightly integrated in my experience on the Mbin side.
okay. Okay. Interesting. So it sounds like your interactions with MBIN have been very positive. Would you
Mhm.
say that you've experienced that a lot with other projects? I myself run OwnCast and I've run PeerTube. And I've not had any issues personally. I think they've all been pretty good as well. Again, as you said, they're passion projects. A lot of these folks love the feedback or love helping because it shows them, where they might be able to change or do better. Or, I mean, I don't know a single developer that doesn't love when someone is like, "Oh, you have a bug here. I fixed it. Here's the code. I did a pull request on just some documentation the other day for PeerTube." I've had really excellent interaction, and that's what made me get more energized. But
I would be remiss if I didn't give the Mastodon folks a call out. Like they've I have had far fewer issues with Mastodon than I've had with Mbin. And again, it's the Mbin issues I've had are kind of legacy, that it was really not ready. It wasn't done cooking in the oven
before everyone's trying to jump on
before
it.
everyone started using it. So
Yeah.
and the Mbin team is really trying to mature it as fast as they can, but like they're two or three developers deep, and it's not it's just it's going to take some time, but they're doing a
Yeah.
phenomenal job. The Mastodon team is, I think they're a little. The core team, I think, is also quite small, but there's a fairly large community or ecosystem of people who are deeply knowledgeable about it and willing to help. And that team is also um, super helpful. Like they have very easy to access support through Discord, whatever you think about Discord. But like anytime I've ever had an issue with Mastodon, that team has been right there. They have made code changes based on requests. So like I can't lavish enough praise on them. I know you interviewed Dan Zup
Oh yeah.
recently about Pixel Fed. You know, I have every now and then I have some wild crazy issue, and him or his team will help out with that. I've not had a ton of issues with Ice Shrimp or Akoma, and so I can't like really speak to or even Lemmy. Like I don't have a whole lot of issues with Lemmy, so I couldn't really give a good reading one way or
Sure.
the other on those.
Yeah. Do you? I'm trying to figure out how to word this because you've had your hands in so many pies, not even just the Fediverse, but throughout years at IBM. Again, I not a super fan of IBM. As I was telling Jerry, I was at Red Hat. Like I was a true believer of Red Hat when they announced that they were bought out by. Actually, they didn't even announce it. It was on a Sunday. My my phone started blowing up, and I'm like, why? No one ever texts me. Why are people texting me? And that's when I found out that IBM was buying Red Hat. It was a bit of a personal struggle for me. But you have such a huge breadth of experience in all kinds of different things, corporate America, and now fully open source, just couple man teams. In your personal opinion, or even your professional opinion, I see the social web as the next evolution of the internet. I don't know if that's how others see it. That's how I personally see it. What kind of challenges do you think we would have to overcome for that to happen? And do you think that could ever be an actual thing? Another easy question. What can I say?
It's a really difficult question to answer, like writ large. So I think for a segment of people, what we're doing here scratches the itch. But I think there is a bifurcation of society, for better or for worse, and a very large segment of society is really driven by the network effect. And so the one thing that I suspect we're always going to struggle with, and probably not really catch up to, is having a billion people
Mm-hmm.
on online, and or people in organizations. It's just really, at least in the context of the Fediverse, I do think like conceptually, social media, or whatever, however you want to think about it, is definitely where we're going. I mean, you can look at TikTok,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yeah.
TikTok is a great example. It is eating Facebook, and to some extent, YouTube and Reddit. It is eating Google. Like, I recently read something about how a lot of especially younger people aren't using Google anymore. They open up the TikTok app and they use that as their search engine, which I find absolutely insane because, like, anyway, for obvious reasons, hopefully obvious reasons. Um, but but I think that is, it's interesting. It's an interesting move because, like, people are doing their shopping there. They're earning their livelihood there, and
See, but we've
and
we've
so on.
seen this. We've seen this with Facebook, right? When Facebook came out, it did the same thing. It completely transitioned how we interact with services. And Google was really afraid of that. That's why they started Google Plus, to which they shut down quickly thereafter. And then Twitter, oh my God, Facebook is dead. There's Twitter. And everyone moved to Twitter. And people built their livelihoods on these things. And, you know, numerous stories. I don't have any, right off the top of my head, but numerous stories of someone builds up an enterprise on Facebook and Facebook changes the algorithm and their enterprise is dead. Like, it seems like people are hopping from one thing to the next. And it actually kind of seems like their digital identities are throwaway, or their businesses are throwaway to try and get to the next thing. Do you agree with that? Is there some way that we can capitalize on something like that? Because we're all interconnected, and you can run your own server and it's never going away, and you never have to please an algorithm.
So, I definitely agree. It's a problem. It seems self-evident, I suppose, that people outside of our niche area, people seem to largely be okay with that. And so when I talk about TikTok, I don't mean that, like, TikTok is the future. What I mean is that TikTok is it today. There will be a
Right.
time when TikTok, kind of like TikTok is killing Facebook right now, there will be a time when people abandon ship and they go somewhere else. I think, if we did want to take that on, I do think it's feasible to do, but I suspect that it would require a level of I don't want to say investment, because it's not going to come off as the right way to say it, right? But there's a I'm just going to say it, right. My mom would not do well on Mastodon or Akoma or Mben or Lemmy, or but she's perfectly happy on TikTok and on Facebook. So there's a lot of, like, usability work, I think, that would have to go
Yes.
in addition to scaling. So I think that
Okay.
because of the way that the Fediverse and related technologies have evolved, like, we focus a lot on back end, right, and the code and whatnot. And I think that if we wanted to take the next step, and if we wanted it to be much more prominent, I think it'll require a different set of skills, maybe, than I think we've currently got
Okay.
focused on development. That's
No,
Jerry's kind of, off the cuff.
no, I think that's an excellent point. Lowering the bar is the way I always say it, right? And I've had this discussion since I want, to run a peer tube in order to pull some of my, because I have friends that I talk to and they're just like, I don't, one is a psychiatrist and she's currently making mental health videos, which I think everyone needs. She's fantastic. And it's that thing of, well, now I have to go to YouTube and I have to go to PeerTube and upload both. And for you and me, it's worth the time and effort, right? Because we see it as being worth the time and effort. For someone
Hmm.
else, I've thought about this. Like, we need a client application that's better than YouTube's front end, and then say, hey, just install this, do what you want, and then it'll go to any platform you want. It's lowering that barrier for the content creators or the grandmothers or the people that just don't have time, right? It's easy to get that TikTok and turn your brain off for a bit and just scroll and then be done. You don't have to worry, which server do I pick, or how do I follow someone, or why is there this other person with a completely different name coming in. I think that is excellent points. We've been through that transition before too, right? And again, I'm looking through this through a very biased lens. I love the Fediverse. I never did social media because I knew the hazards that could befall and then of course, observability bias, where again, the Facebook thing, but no one knew what email was, right? And we figured that out. We had to have, I remember on the late night news, like, what is the World Wide Web? How do you send an email? What is an email? It's like a regular mail, but electronic. And I think there's a massive amount of education that needs to go on. And as that happens, hopefully, developers continue to do what they do best, is making things. But I agree, you need to have those kind of focus groups and find out where the pain points are. And it seems like Linux, after 30 years, is finally, starting to get that polish. Let's just hope that things like Mastodon and whatnot can get there a little bit quicker. I think we can.
Yeah, I am concerned. So look, there's a specific type of person that is drawn to the Fediverse, and I just don't think it's undeniable, and it's it's not just one type of person. There's a range of people, and for those people, they resonate. It resonates with them, and they would rather be there than somewhere else. And I think that the challenge we will always run into is that even if we do, jump over that hurdle, we're only, it's only going to be until the next company that has some new shiny thing,
right?
That everybody that pulls a lot of people away, because there just does not seem to be a high level of attachment to an online platform with the general population. Like they seem to be super mobile in terms of like, hey, all my friends are going over there, so I'm going over there. Even though I've got like a whole lot going on here, I'm going over there because that's where I want to be.
Well, and it seems like there is, as you said, a divergence, but even within that, where, my mother-in-law, she's still on Facebook. Why is she on Facebook? Because her whole community is there. Mm-hmm. But you're also saying there are these digital nomads that just hop from the new thing to the next thing. And really, that's what's driving a massive amount of money, it seems like, is we got to get those that are willing to move, but they're all kind of bleeding each other out, as you said, right? And I don't know. Again, I feel like people are getting sick of hopping, and if we could have one place for everyone to connect into and just stay there, and the new hot thing comes to us, that'd be awesome. I'm dreaming, of course, because no one knows how to monetize this yet. But I don't.
That's another challenge. My hosting bills are
zero.
No, they're pushing $5,000 a month.
Holy, wow!
And that includes, by the way, the fact that I get very low cost CDN services from Fastly, which, by the way, is a great company. So I can't say enough good things about them. But that would be probably another couple $1,000 if I paid list prices for that. So. And I have a relatively low, in the scheme of things, a relatively low amount of people. I do have a lot of services which contribute to why the hosting bill is so much. Like I spend $500 a month on storage. Like that's for backups, just for backups. It's a that's the I think the challenge is there's not necessarily linear scaling cost wise. So that monetization issue, even the Mastodon and Akuma and PeerTube, and they're free. Like that's awesome. That's a great thing. But like I have Infosec.Exchange runs on three 96 core Dell servers.
Oh my God.
So, um, just as an example, that's
Please donate to to Jerry. Jerry has a Patreon, a Ko-fi, and a LibrePay. Holy cow. That's scary thinking how much that costs. Like that's more than people bring in months of their life sometimes. That's crazy.
yeah, yeah. So, the reason I brought that up was not just to be a whiz bag number, but like
No, yeah.
It is if we think about the challenges that come along with bringing in millions and millions and tens of millions of people, the costs of hosting that become incredibly non-trivial. And so then how do you pay for that? Because I don't I don't think that it is a scalable. I don't think the whole donation model scales up. I think it works well where we're at right now because you have a lot of people very passionate about it and they feel strongly that what we have here needs to endure and be supported and whatnot. But I don't think I don't think the donations scale with the people, I guess is where I'm at. That makes sense.
Do you have any thoughts on how to monetize it then? Like, because one of my thoughts is, especially with the current situation with identities just being taken away from big tech, not to talk about Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, taking usernames from people, but it seems to me, and maybe I'm naive in thinking that they would do something to like Pepsi, where Pepsi or IBM or Red Hat would want their own domain on the Fediverse because they can control where that's coming from. Like, hey, that's not coming from Red Hat at redhat.com or whatever, and have employees answering questions there, and that way they're all within work and you control that type of thing. Do you see anything like that working, or do you have any ideas on how to make a long-lasting, expandable, monetized Fediverse?
Not any good ideas, to be honest. I think a lot of the traditional methods of monetization are pretty offensive to most of the people who are on the Fediverse today. And I think a lot of the people who are on the Fediverse today, because they find a lot of the practices of commercial social media to be offensive and anti-privacy and whatnot. And so I think there would have to be a different model. Like I know that there are some instances that charge a monthly fee. Well, that's a model, but I personally, like, I'm out of work. I mean, that's okay. I mean, I'm not like I have a house and I'm fine. Like that's not my point. But there's a lot of people who aren't that lucky. Like and charging a $5 or even a $1 fee is too much. And that is their lifeline. Like that's their ability to connect with friends and perhaps search for jobs and whatnot. And so I think to me it doesn't seem I don't think it's appropriate to gatekeep it with a monthly fee. That's my thing. But that then closes down another monetization avenue, right?
And that's one of the things that I've been thinking about with PeerTube is doing like it's very common for a nonprofit. You could still offer services, right? Like a lot of hospitals are nonprofit, but yet they still bring in money. Just because it's nonprofit doesn't mean that you don't pay for services. And then with that having $5 a month and you get more storage or something like that, right. And then someone pointed out, so then people are paying for that when they can go to one that's free. And it's like, yes, that is difficult to manage. And then I was like, well, maybe there's could be some kind of revenue sharing. And someone else is like, but they're paying to pay themselves back. It's like, yes, but no. And it is a very difficult subject, and it's a very difficult thing to get people to understand. Like, again, as you said, it's important to us. We're literally paying money to do this, and I would still be paying money to do it, regardless of whether someone else was interested or not. And to get people to understand, especially, like a single mom that works 3 jobs, hey, $5 and you can access social media. Well, I could go over here and access free social media. I don't have the ability to choose about privacy, right? Like
Right.
there's no choice for me. And it's interesting. And I'm wondering how the big tech kind of shakeup plays out, with a lot of countries getting uninterested in American big tech, and Google and Facebook facing the DOJ. Do you think anything will come of those?
In the current administration, no.
Okay.
I do think that ultimately the thing that's the catalyst for a revolutionary change in kind of the social media commercial landscape is going to be regulatory, and I would say we've seen that most prominently coming out of Europe,
Yes.
although it hasn't been as it really hasn't
Revolutionary.
been hasn't been as groundbreaking as I would have expected after like the GDPR was passed. Which that
It's
law was very clearly passed to put Google and Amazon and
mhm.
Facebook and Twitter in their boxes, but it really hasn't played out like that. I don't think.
Oh yeah.
Um,
No, I think it was at the end of last year, Google paid off all of their 2024 GDPR fines in like one day. That's
yeah. But I think it is going to be things like that which cause the change. And I don't think in the US that nothing that I've ever seen in my now, many decades of life tells me that the US, the US political system has any appetite to make any sort of meaningful change there. So I think any change that does come is going to be drug along by changes from other countries like Europe. But even there, I'm a little skeptical that we're going to see huge changes driven from there.
okay. So one of our community members, Blender Dumbass, he is not a dumbass, so he needs to stop calling himself that. But uh, on his site, he does something with petitions. So basically, he says, once I have enough in petitions, people voting for me to release the next set of features, I'll release the next set of features. I'm working on them. The longer you take, the more they get polished, but also they got to see the light of day. Something like, if we hit, so I guess kind of like a Kickstarter method, really, within one company, if we hit so much in funding for the next stage, that shows a financial interest, then we can go on. Does that
Hmm.
sound reasonable to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it works out, you know, um,
It's yeah.
as long as there's people interested in kicking money in like that, I think it would be fine. I don't know how viable. I think Mastodon is danced around that a little bit, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
I'm maybe I'm confusing them with someone else. But um, I think one of the challenges is like it feels to me like it feels to me like you end up with a similar situation that we have with the US political system, where the people that have the money are able to
It's
dominate
yep,
kind of the
yep.
the roadmap, and or like the ethics and the ethos of the project, because like they are the main financiers. And if you have somebody who's like very benevolent and whatnot,
Yeah.
maybe that's fine. But the reality is, how often does that happen? It's I think that's the exception of the rule.
So you're saying this is a human problem. If we were
Absolutely.
if we were all llamas dressed as humans? Would that, like, I feel like llamas are
They're
far more compassionate.
so much more rational, yes.
So what kind of recommendations would you have for a new administrator that wants to start up any of these platforms?
Uh, I think you have to decide why are you doing it? Is it for you? Is it to
Mm-hmm.
foster a community? Um, and think about what what you want out of it, because at this point in time there's a lot of different software options,
Mm-hmm.
and not just from a usability perspective, but also from a resource consumption perspective. So, if you were, if you were setting up for like your family, I would go for something that's really low cost, probably like a coma. That would it's very reliable. It just works. Doesn't take a lot of resources. You can set it up. You patch it a couple of times a year, and you're good. Um, but if you're if you're aspiring to build a large community, I think that is a different problem, because there are not too many pieces of Fediverse software that have really proven to scale up. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That I'm not aware of any Mbin or I guess PixelFed now has quite a few users on its flagship instance, and but
Mm-hmm.
most of them don't have a lot of experience with running more than 1,000 or so users. Mastodon is really where the scaling has happened. I think Lemmy.world is got a bunch of, I think they're in the tens of thousands of users, and they figured out how to scale horizontally. But most of that software is not designed to scale horizontally.
Mm-hmm.
And so and changing later is very difficult.
It's
So
very difficult. Yeah.
if you set up an Acoma instance and you decide, oh gosh, like we should have went Mastodon, it's non-trivial. It is non-trivial to move to a different type of software, and to the point where you may choose not to do it.
Oh yeah, and
So
I mean even you're always going to find someone that's like, no, I'm not moving. I like it here, and then you have the option. Okay, do I have to host another service for these smaller group of people that you want to, but it costs money and time, or do you just shut it down and then you potentially
right.
lose folks for good? Like, okay, well, this is just going to keep happening in the Fediverse. I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah,
That's actually been my biggest fear running my own
that
server.
so I think that is, you hit on something that I think is one of the unspoken maybe downsides of the Fediverse. Like
Mm-hmm.
one of the one of the selling points we all run around and pat ourselves on the back about with the Fediverse is, hey, if your instance goes down or you don't like your instance, like you can just move to another one. But in the 8 years I've been here, I've seen a lot of instances, die. I've seen them, get corrupted. Uh, I've seen administrators rage quit. I've seen so many different things happen, and those are unfortunate. But like the victims in those instances are the users,
Yep.
and I would tell you that there are a lot of people in the aftermath of one of those events that never come back. Like
Yeah.
they're just like that's not okay. Like I was told I have to pick an instance. I picked what looked like the best instance, and then they shut down, and like I don't have this problem if I go to this other thing. So I think
Yeah.
that's a big. I think that's also a big challenge and frustration point, that I feel very strongly about, and that's why like when I set something up, I don't have an. It's gonna be there until people are done using it, and I feel really strongly about that because it disfranchises people. Like I
Yep.
care. I'm totally bought in. I care very deeply about the Fediverse. I'm like to tell people I'm all in, even though sometimes maybe it doesn't sound like. like I am.
No,
But
but you have to be realistic, right? You can't be all in and be blinded by your love for
right,
it. We need to find those issues so that we can try and all work together to figure them out. And I think
right.
again, I started a nonprofit on this thing. I'm kind of the same way, and you have a massive sense of responsibility. And I feel like there are some of those folks that are just like, oh, I'm just setting up this fun instance for myself. Oh, I have 1,000 people. Well, it was just for me, so it's gone. And yeah, I think it speaks badly for the entire Fediverse when they just disappear like that. But life happens,
Hmm.
and it is a huge responsibility. It's like worse than a pet, and kids, because you have so many people depending on you. One of the folks in the chat actually asked, "Aren't you worried about moderation or legal liabilities?" For someone that's not run one, I am, but you've run it for a long time. Have you run into any issues like something like that?
So I've had quite a few people threaten threaten legal action on me. Um, none of it has ever come to fruition. Here in the U.S., we enjoy a fair amount of leeway under the Section 302, um, of the CDA. So there's that hasn't been a big problem. Moderation is a huge problem. I don't like they're the heroes in all of this. The moderators are the heroes in the Fediverse. Make no mistake about it, because uh, there's a lot of terrible stuff that happens, and it's the moderator's job to keep that stuff out of people's feeds. And I would love to say like only good people ever sign up for the Fediverse, but the reality is like that's not true. And then some,
Yeah.
very few people are always all good or always all bad. Like we have bad days, and so
Right.
um, it's that sort of thing that makes this a complicated job, and that is exacerbated, by the way, by things like the situation with Israel and Hamas and
Yes.
Palestine, and like people are terrible to each other, and it frustrates me to no end, because it feels like people have this conception in their mind that if they're just mean enough to somebody, you know from their keyboard to somebody on the other side of another keyboard, like that, they'll change their way of thinking. And
It
so
doesn't
like
happen like that.
people can be really really mean to each other. And so uh, you know again, that often manifests itself like, somebody says an off-color joke, or they make fun of somebody's sexuality, and actually while we were having a meeting, or having this meeting, somebody flamed out and did that, so they had to get suspended. And that happens. But it is important to address it. And look,
Yeah.
not everybody's going to be happy, right? Because then you have to. I try to. I have the saying in my profile, like, we're only here for a short time.
Hmm.
Like, collectively as humans, we are only here for a little while. Like, why do we have to treat each
Spectrum.
other like a-holes while we're here? Like,
Yeah.
why can't we be nice to each other? Why do we have to be jerks?
No, and it's funny because I when I go to the gym, I do Krav Maga, and I do it with a couple of folks that voted completely separate than I did. And right before the election, it was hot for everyone, right? Everyone was very nervous and excited and upset and all these emotions, and like they kind of went off on me at one point. I'm like, okay, hang on. Like, we're obviously on different sides here. I know you're good people. I think I'm a good person. So let's just not, especially not right here. This is not the time or the place. And everyone just like, yeah, sure. We put it under the bridge. And literally last night, I'm talking to the same person. And just because they voted for someone different than me, like, we all have the same idea. There are multiple problems that we all agree need to be addressed. How we address them is usually the issue. And you can have those hard conversations as long as everyone tries to remain respectful of everyone else. But that's
Hmm.
difficult. That takes a lot of energy. Why can't we be
Absolutely.
friends? That's yeah. So you're very paced and very careful about things you say. Is that why you're Wary Jerry right now?
Yes.
That was my
Yeah.
segue to get that in because I want to talk about Wary Jerry. I love that it's Wary Jerry.
Yeah. So for a long time, I have seasonally changed my display name, and this goes back like to Twitter days. And I started doing it when in Christmas time I would change my name to Mary Jerry, and I would put little Christmas tree emojis and whatnot. And then eventually I started decorating my llama avatar accordingly. And then we had the after the inauguration. Look, I'm kind of wary about what's going on, and wary alliterates well with Jerry, so that's and it'll change to Scary Jerry come mid September. It'll change to Scary Jerry, and then it'll go to Mary Jerry.
When can we expect a berry Jerry? Like if you start like canning berries or grow a berry bush or something.
I've not figured that out yet. No,
That's
I have to
well
figure out
you
what season that goes with.
well you have beautiful flowers. So what got you into the flowers? Because I love these flowers. There. You actually post beauty. So Jerry posts all kinds of range of stuff. He actually created a like a satire channel for ridiculous company vids, which I just laughed at. I immediately thought of a friend. But did you post these amazing, beautiful flowers too? Are these outside your house? Please tell me they are, because I want to come see them because these are gorgeous.
So I hard to see, but I have a like a bookshelf, not bookshelf, but it's a plant shelf of orchids. My favorite, I've become something of a amateur photographer, and so my favorite subject to take pictures of are orchids. And so I take, if you were to scroll through my picture feed, you'll find just an absolute crazy amount of orchids. Yesterday, I took a picture of a hibiscus, and that one is actually in my front
Yeah.
yard. Um, I have plumeria that I grow on my side porch, and a bunch of other flowers. So I take a lot of flower pictures, which I guess as I get deeper into photography, I'm finding like that's the easy way out. Like people, you
Yeah.
should
People.
probably try to take pictures of something a little more complicated than flowers, Sherry. That's like
But
cheating.
they're so beautiful. I mean, so we're looking at. I don't even know. I don't know any of these flowers. I can't really describe them to our audience that's listening. A whole bunch of very vibrant, beautiful. There's reds, yellows, very close up shots. Pretty much all of them. Like you take close up to the flower, but they're well done. I mean, I'm not an artist. I'm not a photographer, but I love these kinds of things. I love following, especially again, we all have this idea that we're very one dimensional, right? Like Jerry is just the admin guy. So just follow Jerry for Infosec.Exchange information, but don't follow Jerry for anything else. And this is the kind of thing. The reason I like to talk to people is because this always surprises you that we all have very different interests and hobbies and experiences that, like you said, like if we just be friends, like we can all find a common ground, hopefully. There are exceptions with everything. What? Get Jack Black on the Fediverse? I can't get anyone on the Fediverse at the moment, but we're all trying, right? These orchids are beautiful. Very like a light pink. Yeah, I really when I saw that you had like flower posts, I was like, oh, I love this. I just been looking at your flowers. There's some other there's, there's a very creepy happy robot blowing up a laptop or something that is very uncanny valley, and then the one next to it is three people in horror, and the robot's just smiling.
So I have this funny thing that again I started it. I don't even remember how I started it. on Fridays. I don't do it every Friday, but I especially do it on Fridays of long weekends. I encourage people to push their untested code to production. And so because now
Sure.
everything is now AI and agentic AI, the picture that you're referring
Oh,
to is
yeah.
intended to represent the robot is an agentic AI pushing untested code to production, and the people who are looking on in horror are the on-call people who are going to have to work through the
Yep.
weekend
I've
to
been there.
fix to fix the code.
Yeah, I'm on call next week. If anyone's pushing to prod on Friday, don't do it next week. I'm fine any other week.
There you go.
That's oh my gosh. No, and they're beautiful flowers. I bloom scrolling. Thank you. Mel said bloom
Yes.
scrolling. Yeah, that's beautiful. And you can follow that hashtag too. I mean, I don't.
Yep. You can.
It's one of those things that's funny. Like, oh yeah, you can do this thing in the Fediverse. Like, I always forget. It does so much. Like depending on the application you're using, it does so much that I always forget all the different things that it can do. But we'll see. Now, for the real reason I actually asked Jerry here is to give him the opportunity to win a prize of a lifetime. Our prize today is 9,001 llamas to help moderate all of Jerry's instances. We figured if enough monkeys can write Shakespeare, surely 9,000 llamas can handle the crap we write on the internet. We thought about getting you the perfect InfoSec tool to prevent all software security issues forever, but we realized that it was coded in the Shakespeare programming language, and we didn't have enough monkeys available to actually manage that. So, are you ready for the quiz, Jerry?
Let's go.
All right. Favorite movie and why is it Spaceballs?
Because I'm surrounded by yes.
Yeah. Is it Spaceballs? Do you like Spaceballs? I love Spaceballs.
I love
I always said.
I do love Spaceballs, yes.
You could swear on here if you want. Doesn't bother.
Okay, yeah, I'm surrounded by assholes. Funny Spaceball story.
Oh yes, please.
I was on so when I was a CISO of a Fortune 500 company. Funny things happen when you're a CISO of a Fortune 500 company. Like you get invited to be on boards of directors and all sorts of stuff. So I was invited to be on this board of directors. I don't remember who it was for, and the person that was interviewing me, like doing all the background stuff, had on her WebEx background the
Dark Helmet.
yeah, but it was empty. It was the like we're on a blank on the name, like the
The
command
cowl?
ship, like the it was the interior of the ship, where the scene where they're I'm sorry, drawing a blank on the word, but anyway, it's their command center, right? For
Spaceball 1.
yeah, space, exactly.
Okay.
And anyway, so we're talking, and at the end of it, I I stopped her. And this is a very serious conversation. Like we're talking, brass
Yeah.
tacks, and I said, okay, now that we're done with that, can I ask you a question? And she said, what's that? And I said, are you surrounded by assholes? And she lost it. She said, you were the first person who ever recognized that background.
It's funny because it's kind of the same way. So like everyone where I work, you have to have a picture. They don't care what it is. Everyone just puts a picture of themselves that they got taken. I put on Rick Moranis as Dark Helmet, and everyone thinks it's me. I had one guy that realized it was Spaceballs, and I constantly get, "Oh, I love your picture," and I was like, "Yeah, that's Spaceballs." And like, "Oh, I thought that was like you at Comic-Con or something." I was like, "No, I don't." I've been told that I look like him. I take that as an honor because he's amazing. I don't think I look anything like him outside of a nerdy dude with glasses. But so, I'm very happy to hear that your favorite movie is Spaceballs because it has to be, right? That's the only answer. So, next question: Meatloaf, Breadloaf, or Meatloaf the musician?
I got to go Meatloaf the musician, but But there are some things that I won't do for love. So,
And I struggled. I struggled trying to figure out one, and I don't know. A loaf of bread just has so many good, like a million kinds of sandwich. I love Meatloaf the musician. He was amazing. Rest in peace. Or as the kids say, rip in peace. Can't believe I said that. But yeah, I don't know. I thought of this because my wife literally made meatloaf the other day, and my 8-year-old was so excited to have meatloaf, and I was like, "Really? From meatloaf?" And he's like, "I love it." Okay.
all right then.
Since you've been at the beach, sand, sandals, or sandwiches?
Sand all the way.
Really? Okay, you gotta tell me why. Because I love the ocean. I hate the beach. I hate sand.
I don't know. So the beach is my happy place. Like it is just it's like it feels like where I belong. So that the sand just feels like I'm home.
But it's so hard to walk in. You gotta lug all the stuff down from the car, you
Oh,
know.
I don't dispute that. It's a titanic pain in the ass and it gets super hot and
Very uncomfortable. And if you forget your sunscreen, you get massively burned. But even with all that, you're like, you just rather be on the
yep,
beach.
absolutely.
See, again, I could do without the beach. I would just love the ocean. The sound of the ocean is just incredible. And like you try to listen to a recording of it, it's not the same. You don't get the breeze. You don't get the,
Yep.
that sun. And I mean, public beach or private beach though too, because I think that's a huge difference as well.
Well, it's so I only have access to public beaches, so
Oh, okay. And so then it really depends to, like, even if you have that public beach neighbor that is just being loud and obnoxious, you're just like, no, I'll just chill out on the sand.
yeah.
Wow, you're
Well,
very
usually
zen,
it's
man.
sometimes I'm the obnoxious one though, so
Oh yes, I could see that. You're very over the top.
you do not know the type of music I like. So
Oh, okay, let's talk about it. Do you want to talk about that?
yeah, um, so well, people will think less of me, but the genre wise, it's called melodic metalcore. So like
That sounds amazing. I've never heard of that.
I would say one of my favorite artists is August Burns Red, and my favorite song by them is called Beauty and Tragedy, and I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 beats per minute. It is a
Oh,
fast song,
that
and
makes that makes
find
hair
that
metal look slow.
oh, hair metal is like I can't listen. I When I was in high school, I liked early Metallica because that's all
Yeah.
the Metallica that was out there at the time. Um, it is way too slow now. Like
Yeah.
I've joked that by the time I am in a retirement home, if I manage to live it that long, the music I will be listening to at the time will be so fast that it's just going to sound like static.
Oh, I figured it would just sound like one long string of like some meshed average note together.
Something like that, yes.
All right. That's awesome. I love learning this. Again, I absolutely love that because no offense, someone looking at you, they're like, he likes classical music and he sits on the beach and drinks his, wine and just talks about the kids or something. Like that's great. I love hearing about that. I've never even heard of melodic metalcore. I will now. Oh, they're from Lancaster, PA. I lived in PA for a while, not far. Awesome. Sorry, I'm very entranced by that now. Next question is, what does an alternate universe Jerry do?
Goodness. President of whatever country they live in.
He's a president of a country. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a magic phone here, and I can call alternate universes. Don't ask. It's very technical. And so I reached out to a alternate universe. You might be correct. There might be a Jerry that does that. But the alternate universe Jerry that I reached out to actually said that he was in InfoSec. But he says he actually secures the information. And when I asked him to describe it, he said he just eavesdrops on people's conversations and writes everything down. He doesn't understand why the police keep arresting him, but I think it has to do with him peeping into people's windows to write things down. But best of luck to that universe's Jerry. This one's doing well, so I think.
I like to think so. I like to think so.
So this one is a bit, I think it's going to be interesting. The Camelidae family, dromedary camels, Bactrian camels, llamas, alpacas, vicuñas, and guanacos. I mean, I think I know the answer, but...
Well, definitely llamas and alpacas.
Yeah, it has... Yes. That's because you are one, right?
Right.
See, if you had to pick between a llama and an alpaca, though, because I've actually, llamas don't seem nice. And even when we went to... I took my family to go to an alpaca farm, and it was just the guy teaching us about alpacas, but really he was there to get you to kind of buy an alpaca that he takes care of, which the dude was awesome. But even the alpacas, you have to be careful, but they are so soft and so pretty to look at. So if you had to pick one or the other, llamas or alpacas?
I definitely think llamas are cooler. I think alpacas are certainly much more approachable. If you want a good laugh, go Google llama alpaca meme, or the difference between llamas and alpacas, and you'll get a good sense of what the actual meaningful difference between a llama and an alpaca is, because the llamas tend to be armed, and alpacas are just much more pleasant.
So the one that I found says the real difference between alpacas and llamas, and it shows an alpaca on the left and a llama on the right, around a couple llamas. But alpacas weigh about 150 pounds, super floofy fur, shy and quiet, will be your best friend. Llamas weigh about 400 pounds, listen to Pearl Jam, always judging you, and are probably drunk. I mean, no offense, Jerry. If you're a llama that doesn't say a lot of good things, the Pearl Jam is awesome. I could go with that. That was my teen years, I think. Yeah, probably teen years. But all right, there you go. And as usual, our last question will be sent telepathically to Jerry. I will send you the message. I'll let you know when it gets there, which you obviously know because we're telepathic. But I let you know so that the audio listeners can know to expect your response. Are you ready? Yeah,
I'm ready.
Your telepathic sensors are open and all that? Okay.
I'm ready.
Here it comes. Okay. Take your time. Think about your answer if you have to. It's all on the line for your special prize, if you can get
it. It was
this.
A dolphin, and no, I did not do that to it.
I love answers like that because we all went to the worst possible place. All right. Congratulations, Jerry. You got every answer either correct or incorrect. Good job. Unfortunately, when we attempted to round up all of the llamas, they told us since we tried to hire monkeys as well, they thought the monkeys were replacing them. They didn't know they were two separate projects. And then the llamas unionized. And then once they unionized, they actually became hyper intelligent, built rockets, and left the planet to go to another solar system. Let's hope the hyper intelligent llamas are benevolent and don't come back to hurt us for that.
Yeah, that's not the first time that's actually happened to me. So
I believe that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you are a llama dressed as a human, so you've probably seen it a lot. Because llamas, I mean, I'm no llama expert, but I'm pretty sure they're immortal.
Pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, sounds good to me. But that's all we have for episode 22 of Fireside Fedi. Thank you so much, Jerry, for talking to me. It's been so much fun. I really appreciate it. Everyone, make sure you support Jerry if you can. Even a small donation goes a long way. If everyone gave even $1, that covers pretty much everything out there. Don't forget to tip your admins of your instances as well as developers. Take care of yourself first as well. And if you enjoyed the show and want to support BT Free, our nonprofit organization, consider donating at givebutter.com/BT Free. BT Free's goal is to help fight for digital privacy rights. First platform is tubefree.org, which is now open for PeerTube signups. This feels so wrong and so weird I'm saying this because I've never had to do anything like this. Yeah, there. So people are throwing money emojis in the chat. Yeah. I don't think that helps, but thank you for the thought. I would totally take that and use that, but I think the government would get upset with me. And thank you so much to everyone on the Fediverse. Just by being on the Fediverse, interacting with people, you're making sure we're all a little bit more free. You're all wonderful folks. You all deserve love and compassion. Never forget to give yourself compliments and give compliments freely. Even a little compliment can help make someone's day. That includes yourself, as I said, and be compassionate to yourself. And everyone have a great day. And thank you all so much. Have a good one. Bye.
Take care.